What's going on, game players? How are you brothers and sisters doing? Gamers out there, my goodness, I have a very, very special guest with us this week. This gentleman might have worked on some of your favorite games. I mean, this gentleman, he has worked on Days Gone at Tony Mann Studios, and more recently, he has worked on a game that has really been tearing up the charts for the next gen, or the current gen, the PlayStation 5. He's worked on Demon Souls Remake as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to the show, Mr. Tony Mann. What's going on, brother? Welcome, welcome.
How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, brother. Doing fantastic. It's so great to have you on the show. My goodness, man. Two big games under your belt, brother. That is
Good to be here. Yeah.
Oh, man, it's great to have you here, Tony. It truly is. Now, I do want to ask you one thing before we get started into everything else. I was looking over, some of your history, and I saw, I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, you did go to, was it Full Sail?
Yeah.
Full Sail. It seemed like a year or so out of school, you actually landed a job, which is amazing to me, at Tony Mann Studios. How the world does a brand new student coming out of school land such an amazing opportunity at such a pretty established studio under the Sony banner?
Yeah, I felt very fortunate and blessed to be to kind of land that one. I like when you're finishing up with school, you don't know what you don't know what you're gonna do. You're trying to email stuff and hit up every studio. So I was fortunate. I landed. I emailed someone who worked at Ben's studio and was just like, man, you've been there for 15 years. That's unheard of to me, because my understanding was people just kind of job hop in the industry. You get laid off after a studio, something. So
yeah,
I was like, man, how'd you do that? And so we had been talking back and forth. His name was Brian. He still works there. And so they were we just emailed back and forth for like 2 years, maybe year and a half. Mm-hmm. And then he was like, hey, we've got some contract roles coming up, before they got posted,
Wow, nice.
And so it just kind of worked out,
Wow, sounds awesome. It almost sounds like a once in a lifetime opportunity,
Yeah.
Man, that is excellent, man. Now I guess what I would like to ask you though, Tony, is, with that being said, with there being so many moving parts, inside of game development, what exactly is your responsibility? Because I'm a civilian here. I'm learning about everything as well. What is, I guess, your responsibility as the lead artist?
As a lead?
Yes.
So the lead is kind of, I'm not the lead currently.
Okay, no problem,
at my studio.
No problem.
But the lead takes the reins and leads the younger artists and stuff that come in. So they're making the art calls. They're making sure the quality is up high and everything for the whole team. Specifically with me, I'm in the character art department. And I remember being in school and just knowing, I like playing games. I'm good with computers. I used to draw all the time. Like, this all just makes sense. So I just want to go to school for game art. And that's all I knew. It's like game art, right?
Right.
So then I started figuring out, like, oh, there's like environments. There's environment art. There's character art. There's concept. There's this technical side where you can code and do all this stuff. So it was way over my head. And I actually was starting to go to school for animation, and I realized halfway through, I was like, I don't even like animation. Like, I just want to make games. So, So as far as what I do, the character work, the art director, the lead, and the concept artist flesh out what the design's going to be for the character. That's
okay.
Then they hand off that final drawing to the character team. That's where we take it, turn it into the 3D asset, and fill in the blanks where a lot of concept artists, they got to kick stuff out quick. So it's just like you can kind of tell that's a belt buckle maybe, or that's a bag of some sort. So that's the fun part, where you get to kind of pull stuff together and create this character kind of, as long as it fits that main feel.
Right.
That's what we do. Then we stop, and it gets handed off after us to guys that get it ready for animation. They build the skeleton and weight it and stuff. So we're in between the people who sketch it out and then the people that make it move and animate. That's kind of the character role.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very pivotal role then. I mean, it seems like a lot of pressure. Well, I don't know. You might not think of it as pressure, but it seems like, man, it's a lot of, it could be a lot of back and forth, like having to, kind of change things, kind of, make this a little bigger, a little smaller, put more detail on it. Wow. Very, very, interesting. I guess, having that interactivity with, everyone on the team and, having to go back and forth and trying to correct things in real time. I guess with the pandemic happening and, teams having to work from home, how much of a challenge has it been to, just to get, let's just say, Demon Souls, because this happened right in the middle of that, I'm sure. Demon Souls remake over the finish line. How difficult was that? Because us as, gamers, we look and we see these delays and it's like, oh man, why isn't it happening? And I think that sometimes, including myself, we forget that things are different. Teams are working from home. So, how has that been? How has that challenge been, having to work from home and get things done?
I got hats off to the Bluepoint IT team. They crushed it, man. They had people up and running quick. The management there, they had servers online for people to grab data and send data back, in our communication. Everything went, as smooth as it could for, a pandemic hitting and people just kind of being tossed into this, hey, you got to go home, you work from home. IT busted it and got computers ready for people to come pick up all this stuff. So I want to say it went smoothly considering what was going on.
Right.
So yeah, it didn't feel too much different as far as hitting deadlines.
Okay.
But obviously there's the few weeks of figuring out people are working from home now. How do I get in contact with this person, or, we used to have these meetings daily instead. So everything, there's that adjustment obviously to it. But it went pretty smooth.
Wow, well, that's actually great to hear that, IT, they were on it, on top of everything, and got you guys pretty much clicking. I know it took a little while, a couple of days or so to get things together, but just the fact that they were able to get you guys up and running at a pretty good pace, where it really wasn't as hard as it could have been, because, meeting virtually, I'm sure that it's nothing like actually being able to go over to the person's office or sit down with the team, feed off of the energy from one another to actually get it done. So like you said, at least, it was a lot smoother than what it could have been, which is great.
That might be, we were 80 people or so.
Wow.
So we can move a little more agile. There's always outsourcing and stuff, but we're always communicating with them externally already, but internally it's a smaller ship, it can turn quicker than these massive 1,000 people, 300 people studios. So, that might have something to do with it too, that, we could be a little bit more on our toes with something like this hits.
Wow. So wait a minute. Now I gotta ask you this, Tony. So how big actually is Bluepoint? You said it's like 80 of you guys that worked on the Demon Souls remake. I know you said it's some outsourcing, but that seems internally like us. Yeah.
But then also, we partner with obviously Japan Studio.
I
don't know their numbers.
Gotcha. No. That's fine. No problem.
So that was internal Bluepoint,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nah, that's just awesome, because I've seen the work, on Demon Souls remake. Now I got to be honest with you, Tony. That game is hard, brother. It is very hard, and I haven't even attempted. I'm gonna be honest with you, brother. I've never attempted it.
I wouldn't have either. I would not have either.
But it looks. Oh, go ahead, Tony. It sounded like you were gonna say something, brother. Didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just gonna. No, that's fine. I was just gonna say the first time I played through it, towards the end of a project, you're game testing and you're finding all the bugs and squashing as much as you can. And the first time playing through, I debugged, cheated. And there's no way. I was like, I'm not gonna turn a corner and get smashed in the face with a hammer and start over. No, thank you. I'm gonna cheat for now and learn this thing before I play it.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
It's intense.
Yeah. Oh man, it's brutal. It's brutal. But I tell you though, just the work that Bluepoint has done, they've made such a name for themselves off of the remakes. I mean, I'm thinking about like Shadow of the Colossus, the way that came out. That game looks amazing on the PS4. Looks incredible. And then having Demon Souls come out and look as great as it does. I mean, how did you feel once that project was done? It was out the door. People got their hands on it, the gamers, and it got really good scores out the gate. How did that make you feel, brother?
That was a good feeling. Like, the whole studio, when games ship, no matter what studio, both studios I've been at, like, we're watching Twitch, we're watching YouTube, we're watching the people stream it and play it, and it's fun, man. It's fun to watch and react, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Now I gotta know now as a developer, what are you most excited about when it comes to working on this next gen hardware, the PlayStation 5? I mean, we see that what you guys were able to do with Demon Souls, you and the team, amazing graphics. I mean, is there something that, it excites you about working on the PS5 versus, working on the PS4? Because we know it's a much more capable machine. It's a lot more powerful. Are there some things that excite you about that? Just being a creative.
I feel like this is the first console that graphically feels a lot closer to a PC. I'm traditionally a PC player. That's like, first person shooters, keyboard and mouse. Like, that's kind of been my thing.
Right.
So this one, like, I'll switch over to it, and like, even when we were finished up the project, and now that I've got a retail PS5 playing on that thing, like, it's quick, man. It loads. It looks great. Like, you can't really tell anymore that this is a console.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
The loading times. That was something that as a gamer excited me the most was the, these fast load times. You get some games like Red Dead Redemption 2 where you're sitting there and it's loading and loading. And then, seeing the load times on the PS5, it's just snappy, it's fast, it's not a lot of waiting. So for me, that was like one of the biggest things, that stood out for me for this next generation, just the load times themselves. But yes, indeed. But, you know what? Speaking of the next gen, well, current gen. I keep saying next gen. I always have a hard time, not saying next gen. But
I was reading an article though, or something that it was saying because everything's so limited, it's kind of still next gen. It's not quite here yet, right?
Right.
Until everybody can get their hands on it, and
man,
it's kind of in that weird spot.
It has been, let me tell you something, Tony, trying to get a PS5 is like trying to find a fossil of a dinosaur bone right now. It is so difficult, man. So for you to have one, I got to say congratulations to you for that, man.
I don't know how many times it was in the cart, and got rejected, denied.
Oh, man, it's been happening. Matter of fact, let me ask you, have you got a chance to play Miles Morales on the PS5 out of curiosity?
I booted it up a little bit and played it. Yeah.
What'd you think of it?
Typically my style of game.
Okay, gotcha.
The arcade, kind of that action type game. It looked good. My kids were playing it. They liked it. They were enjoying it.
Oh, that's dope, man. That's awesome, man. What kind of games do you like? Out of curiosity, Tony, I'm just curious,
Right
man.
now, so I was playing Immortals: Phoenix Rising.
Oh man, I've heard. Yeah, that's Ubisoft, right?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
man. If you like a Zelda Breath of the Wild type game,
Yeah.
that game's solid.
Really?
I think it's kind of like a sleeper hit almost. I mean, I think it's doing well enough, but like I'm enjoying it a lot. It's a really, really solid game. It feels really good. Yeah.
Wow.
And then go ahead.
No. You go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
I was
brother.
going to change it and say then Cyberpunk came out, but
Oh man. Okay, you know what? Now, have you actually played that on your PC yet? Cyberpunk 2077?
yeah.
Let me ask you now, with everything that's been happening with that game, they're saying that the console versions are tough and they're not doing too well. But since you've played it on PC, just asking just gamer to gamer, how has your experience been with it on the PC?
I was surprised to see all the articles of stuff people having issues.
Wow!
Like, it's been solid. Like there's some glitchy, some bug stuff in there. Nothing game breaking, nothing crashing, nothing. It's been pretty smooth, pretty solid. Yeah.
Golly, what are you running it on? Do you have like a 2080 or 2070?
Yeah, I had a 2080 and the AMD,
Gotcha.
whatever their last gen one was.
Oh no, that's fine.
39
man.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's just so interesting just to hear that it's running so much better on PC. I mean, it's not shocking, but it's like, wow, just such a night and day difference. But speaking of Cyberpunk, graphics are just crazy on that game. We've seen, graphics evolve. I mean, me myself, I come from the Atari 2600 era, pixels and nothing too much going on. But today we've seen, just amazing graphics. Graphics are getting lifelike, environments are getting more lush, more having it look like life is really like living inside of the world. Do you think that we can expect graphics to get even better than what we have today? Or do you think that we're starting to kind of reach a bit of a plateau? Because, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only gamer that has said for years, how much better can it get? But it continues to get better.
Yeah.
But now it's really starting to really kind of thread that line between CG, in real time almost. So you personally, do you feel like we have more to go? Or do you think as far as graphics go, we're kind of maxing out and things will be used, their power could be used for other things like making the environments better or, AI?
Yeah. It's funny because you say that every time, like, oh, how could this get any better? And then like 2 years later, you look back and like, oh, that used to look good, huh?
Right.
I think it can still get pushed further, for sure. Yeah. So the job I do now, I'm kind of a mix of character art and tech. So I do a little bit of Python coding and some scripting work.
Okay.
And my role is a little bit more of like make sure the art pipeline is running smoothly. So that goes from like, some shader work and some hair stuff and stuff like that, all related to characters. So like seeing kind of the code side a little bit. I'm not like a graphics programmer. I don't push that far, but like seeing it, there's a lot of hacks in there still to make things run efficiently. It's not real world type physics. It's not, so I think that stuff will continue to push until we hit that where it's like 1-to-1. This is how reality works type, how physics work and how. So I think people will still push until they've hit that.
Gotcha.
And I think that'll be exciting. I worked with an old lead at Ben's studio. It was like, he's like, I can't wait until they do hit that because then we can go back to some stylized art again.
Oh man, yes indeed.
You start working with realism all the time, and it's it's scan data and it's take blueprints for stuff and make it just like this. But when you do some stylized art, there's some more freedom on the art. He's an artist speaking, so
Absolutely, man. Nah, that's just great to hear, that, you feel like we have further to go. Matter of fact, not just that, I was reading an article myself. This was a couple of days ago, from Rockstar. Their CEO, I'm forgetting his name, but he had said that he thinks that in the next 7 years or so, it's going to be a 1-to-1, kind of similar to what you were saying, that,
Okay.
it's going to get better and it'll be a 1-to-1. And Rockstar, I mean, those guys, good gosh, they're incredible.
Yeah.
Red Dead 2, I mean, gosh, man, just looking at the environment and what they were able to do with the NPCs. I mean, just incredible work, man. Incredible.
Yeah, I was just playing Red Dead Online the other night. Yeah, it's fun.
Nice, man.
Good looking game.
Oh, definitely. Matter of fact, speaking of good looking games, I do want to ask you this. The VGAs, Video Game Awards, the Game Awards, they just happened. And The Last of Us Part 2. It
took everything home.
Took everything. Took everything, man. Now, to me, I got to be honest with you, Tony. That was my game of the generation. The Last of Us Part 2 was unbelievable. I mean, Neil Druckmann, just sensational game to me personally. But a lot of people, they thought it shouldn't have won. I'm just curious to know, and this is not to start anything at all. Nothing at all, Tony. But
no, I see where we're going here. Okay.
I just wanted to know, out of curiosity, brother, your opinion. Do you think, because I think it did, but do you think that it deserved a Game of the Year? I'm just curious. I think so.
Naughty Dog, their quality bar is so high, and on every level too, animations, art, environments, characters, shading, they hit it hard when they do stuff. So yeah, I can't say there's another game that topped it or came. There's others that are good too.
Yes,
but
of course.
When a studio like that drops stuff, they're gonna take it home.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, just the story and no spoilers, listeners, no spoilers here, but it was a fantastic game, man. It was awesome. But I guess, with game development, people like myself who wanted to get into the industry and, work inside of it, we look at it as, man, this is all fun and games. It's going to be great to go to work every day. I'm going to have a great time working on this project. And in your opinion, what would you say is the hardest part of game development? Because I know it can't be all good. I mean, it's like any other job, but to you personally, what would you say is probably one of those, harder parts when it comes to, game development?
Yeah. I definitely feel fortunate to do something that I love. I know that can be tough to find sometimes, and I feel like I found it late because I started in the industry at 30, which, there's a lot of people that get in a lot sooner than that. But,
wow, that's still young, though.
It's still young, yeah. I still got a lot of years left.
Yeah, brother, absolutely.
It depends on what you find enjoyment in, like I enjoy sculpting and doing the character sculpting side, but then there's a technical side of, the topology side of the low res game stuff, and that's a little more technical, and some UV work where you're kind of unwrapping that, like taking the globe and unwrapping it into a flat map type idea.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
So there's a lot of technical stuff like that where it's like, this isn't the funnest thing in the world, but I know it has to be done because the next step is I get to see it in game, all textured and, looking good. So,
oh man,
it's kind of, you kind of hit these, up and downs because, you could be working on a character for, a month or so, and there's 2 weeks or so of solid fun, sculpting and getting in there and getting everything looking really good. And then, week, I'm just throwing some numbers out, but, a week or so of that kind of more technical work that's not as fun. So it kind of goes up and down. And then it depends, I know I might get in trouble for saying this, but there's
man.
people in the game industry that don't play video games.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh man!
So when it comes to playtesting at the end, there are certain people who absolutely hate playtesting. So it just depends, on what you would enjoy or not when you're in here. But of course there's ups and downs. But as a whole, it's really cool in the end, because I've worked a lot of, I've worked factory jobs and night shifts and made PVC pipes, just random. I've done jobs before, but like this is an interesting career, because at the end of the 3 years or whatever, you have a product that like you were a part of. There's a very clear, this is the end, this is what we did, and it feels good. Yeah.
Man, that sounds just so awesome, man. It really does, man. Just, having, like you said, having a finished product and you just put it out there to the world. Do you guys ever get, have you ever gotten, nervous when it does come to actually putting the product out?
It's always nervous, yeah.
Oh, man, I could imagine. I mean, somebody, they had compared it to, I forgot what developer it was, but he said, man, it might have been, he worked on Gears. He hasn't worked in a few years now, but he was one of the masterminds. But Belinsky, can't remember his name, golly, but he had said that it's like when you put your game out there, it's almost like you're putting your baby out there, and you're putting it out there to be ridiculed and called all kinds of names. It can be a nerve-wracking situation while you're just sitting there and you're waiting and trying to feel out the temperature of how gamers are actually receiving it. Very interesting. Let me. Oh, go ahead. Were you about to say something?
You talking about Cliffy B?
Cliff Belinsky. Blazinski. Yeah, Cliffy B. Man, that brother, he is very outspoken, but he is he was fantastic with the Gears franchise. I thought he did excellent work on the 3 that he had worked on, and I know that he had started his studio a couple of years ago. What was it, Boss Key? I believe Boss Key Studios, and it didn't, it's hard, man. It's hard. It didn't go too well. I had actually talked to one of the guys that actually worked on the game when it was coming out, the last one he did. But it happens. Game development, just the gaming industry is tough. It's tough to be able to sustain. But I wanted to know though. I never asked you this, Tony. What actually got you into gaming? Because you said that you were a gamer. What was your first console, out of curiosity, man?
First console was Sega.
Which one, the Dreamcast or the
Genesis?
Oh, man!
Back to the Genesis console, cartridges, and then when they used to mod them and you get the CD, Sega CD, and then the 32-bit thing you clip in the
32X,
top. Oh my goodness, it's like a transformer in the end.
Oh man, the Genesis had some amazing games. One of my favorite games, and I think it was because it was just so ahead of its time as far as like graphics went. Well, maybe not ahead of its time. It just was a standout. Was Aladdin. Aladdin looked
I remember that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It was so amazing when you had compared, well, myself, I can't speak for anybody else. When I compared Aladdin on the Genesis to the Super Nintendo, the Genesis version just felt like it was just more like animated. It looked more like a cartoon. I absolutely love that game. I never beat it though, Tony. Never beat it, brother. But
I completely forgot about that game. You just brought back. Yeah,
it was awesome, man. The Lion King. I never played the Lion King, but Aladdin, that was phenomenal, man. I absolutely loved it. But Tony, I've been wanting to ask, a developer this, and this might be a little touchy, but and if it is, brother, I understand if you might want to just bypass it. But
I'm gonna hang up and just throw them out.
Exactly.
I'm done.
Absolutely, brother. But I have to ask you, in the gaming industry, right? We hear a lot about crunch, and as a developer who has worked on 2 AAA games pretty much back to back, do you think that it's possible to avoid crunch, or does it just come with the territory? You know, I mean, because me being a truck driver, I know that around the holidays, it's going to be busy. You know, it's going to be certain demands that are going to be put on me that, you know, I might not like, but I know it comes with it. So I kind of expect it. It doesn't mean that it's right, but I know that I'm going to be running a little harder than usual.
Right. Yeah.
But for you, do you think it's similar to the same thing, or do you think it could be a situation where it doesn't have to exist?
Right. This is a touchy question.
Yes, I know. I know it is, brother. I know.
It's tough because, you know, you're dealing with a huge team and humans, right? You're dealing with human beings. So
Yes.
There's always going to be error on everyone's part in some way, you know? So could it be avoided? I mean, if the policy was like, as the gamers getting the game, if on the box it said, we didn't crunch, and then there's a bunch of bugs in the game, and everyone's like, okay, cool, they didn't crunch, though. It's like, okay, everyone accepts this now. Great, you know? So do I think it's possible? Maybe, but probably not. But I know that there's been some studios who have taken advantage. You know, people speak out about that.
Yes, yeah.
When it happens, I think that will always happen on both sides. People will speak out when it happens, and people will try and take advantage. Ben's studio wasn't too bad, you know. And a lot of the times that I've crunched, even like on Demon Souls, it was more of like a labor of love type passion. Like nobody really asked me on Demon Souls to crunch. I just wanted to push what I was doing as far as I could, and you know, we just posted, or you did our art blast and stuff, and posted all the stuff we did. So I think I'm okay talking about this kind of stuff now. But like, you know, my main focus was on the character creator in Demon Souls and getting all of those face shapes and everything, all that stuff working and feeling smooth when you're swapping through stuff. So there was a point where I just wanted to push and make that better. And so that was kind of I put that on myself, you know?
Gotcha. No, I mean, hey, I call that being a 100%, you know, a team player, man. You know, it's like you see where it's a demand for something to be done, and you know, you just took the initiative and you did it, you know, which is great. I'm sure it absolutely helped out the team, you know, for you actually putting that on your back and, you know, just moving with it, you know, accordingly.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say which is great, you know. It right. Helps.
Yeah, and there's times where there's deadlines that come up, and it's just like, you know, hey guys, we have a deadline. We have a publisher or something who wants to see, you know, they're putting millions of dollars into these products, you know, like, can we prove to them we can pull off this one thing, whatever it is, whatever the, you know, thing is, we got to show them we could do this. So it's, you know, all hands on deck. Let's just bust this thing out so we can show them. And it's not like the end of the project. It's not like we're about to ship. It's just, let's hit this milestone so that we can show, look, this is what this end product's going to look like, you know? So that comes up too. Yeah, but I've been fortunate. The studios I've worked for haven't had crazy crunch or anything.
No, that's awesome. Now speaking of the studio, you know, like you mentioned, Sony Bend with Days Gone. You know, the hype level, it was pretty high. I mean, we saw it at E3, I believe. What was that, 2016 or 17? Somewhere around there, they showed it off, and it looked amazing. You're seeing all of these, you know, zombie. I don't know if y'all call them zombies.
Oh, you can't call them zombies.
You can't call them zombies. Oh man, pardon me. Oh, pardon me, brother. Please. Oh man, I am so sorry. Please forgive me, Tony. I didn't mean that, brother.
John Garvin, he hears you.
Oh man, but just seeing,
you see them all. Yeah.
Oh man, it was amazing just seeing the swarms of them, and the NPC count was just astronomical. It was crazy. But with that, you know, being said, it did have it had a few bugs when it released, but they did get patched. And the reviews, they were a little mixed, but now today, with it being backwards compatible on the PlayStation 5 and, kind of seeing actually a resurgence, with people actually saying now, wow, this feels good. It feels better. It's running better, seeing the flip side of it, because it took some shots, brother. It did when it first came out. So much so, people are mad at Cyberpunk for getting the scores that it did when Days Gone actually got taken through the ringer for the same exact thing, to be fair. So with it being the situation that now Days Gone is out on the PS5, backwards compatible, people are enjoying it. How does that make you feel, kind of, seeing where it started and seeing kind of where it ended up today as far as Days Gone goes?
Yeah, it's cool to see it now. When it came out, I think it's like in the 70s somewhere on Metacritic for the article, their reviews, but the user scores were in the 8.2 or 82, whatever they do it. And everyone that I talked to that played it enjoyed it, Yeah. So it feels like the people that actually would sit down and play through it enjoyed the game a lot. So yeah, it's cool now that it's on the PS5 to see it playing again. I actually installed it. I have not played through the entire game.
Yeah, me neither.
One yet.
I haven't either.
I've got to the same point in the game so many times when we were testing that I'm just like, man, I can't play this intro section one more time. So it's been a little bit now, and I finally installed it back on. So hopefully I'll get through the entire thing. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see it, all out there again because of that.
Right. No, it's awesome, man. Now what I do want to note now, it was a few people, me, myself, I played it. I thought it was good. It's like the motorcycle mechanics when you first start the game initially, man, it feels great. It feels so good. And then once your bike gets wrecked and you get that junk. Oh my gosh, brother, you made us feel it, man. It was like the mechanics. I'm drifting around corners, can't hold the bike steady. I know that you guys intentionally did it that way. Was that just I know it was a design choice, but was it to make the player, you think, maybe feel more appreciative as they're putting the upgrades into the motorcycle, let you know kind of where you started and, kind of where you're ending up, as it were? Because I was like, man, I was getting a little frustrated, Tony, a little bit. But I understand that that's the game. You got to get these upgrades just to make you feel the stark difference between the two. Yeah. Was that something that you guys, you purposely made it, that much harder to, actually steer it? Or, was that, I guess that's the question. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was it. And I thought that was an interesting kind of mechanic. They start you off with this really sweet ride, right? And then right away it's like, nope. And then they give you this thing that's just putting along, like, oh man. So there is kind of that motivation to like, all right, I need to upgrade this thing. And I remember a few times that John Garvin would talk about the bike, and it's like, this isn't like a throwaway thing in the game. It's not like a GTA or something where you just grab a vehicle anywhere and just ride it around till it catches fire. This is your vehicle. It's like a character. It's like a main character in the game. You are upgrading it. So I thought that was kind of a cool concept behind it. Yeah,
it's actually good to kind of hear that tidbit of, it was supposed to be looked at as more so a character, not just something that you can just dispose of, and just get another one. No, I can get that. I can get it for sure. I can understand it. It's all right. Once you get the upgrades, though, it does get a lot better, a lot smoother. Yeah. Yes, indeed. But speaking of controls, man, with you working directly with the DualSense controller, which I hear is amazing. I haven't got my hands on it yet, but I hear it's fantastic. When working with the team at Bluepoint Games on Demon Souls Remake, do you think that developers will take full advantage of the controller's features, or do you think it'll, kind of be a fad and, eventually developers will stop using it? Because I hear nothing but amazing things when it comes to Astrobot and how they implemented, what the controller is capable of doing.
Yeah. That's like the first thing I show. Like my brother just came in town last night, and that was like the first thing, that you pop on. It's like, check this out, And it's
Right.
like, whoa, you can feel these little dudes in here rolling around, and, yeah, it's definitely cool. I don't think there's any gimmicky thing on the controller. Like, it feels like a step forward from the DualShock controller from the PS4. Like, I don't know that it's revolutionary, the next huge, but like it's definitely a step towards forward in a controller. Like you could feel the difference. Like I love the size and like the feel. It's a little heavier, and then the feedback in it and the way that they did all the vibration stuff inside is crazy. Like you can feel where on your palm stuff's hitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
all
that's
the way
what I
up
hear.
the controller. Yeah.
Yeah, I look at it like this, Tony. We haven't seen anything like this, I think, to be fair, since the N64's controller with Rumble. Controllers were, typically basically the same run-of-the-mill, thing.
Yeah.
But the N64, that controller, it revolutionized everything. We got Rumble with that controller, and we got the analog stick. Nintendo, they were really ahead of the curve. So I feel like even though I haven't, had my hands on it yet, I've just heard a couple of my friends talking about it, AB and Vaughn, they actually have PS5s, and they were telling me, how the trigger, it'll get stuck or it's harder to pull down. And it's like, man, we just haven't seen this kind of step forward with the controller, since the N64. And we see that now, today, Rumble is it's a regular standard feature, in console gaming. So, I was just curious to know. I hope it does, stay around. I hope that, that developers, they will continue to, make it work with the games. I hear it really immerses you in, kind of a way that a controller hasn't, as it were.
And you almost don't notice. It's a weird thing to say about it, but like you almost don't notice it. It feels so natural. Like you're that much more immersed in the game because you're feeling it through your hands too as you're playing, until you kind of step back and you're like, oh, that's great about that Astrobot thing. It's like it shows you the controller on the screen, and when you're pulling the trigger, you're feeling it at the same time, and you're the visual that you're seeing is this is the controller rumbling. And then when you go out in the world, it's like you're just holding this controller and you're just so focused in on the guy jumping around and stuff that you don't notice it as much, but it's way more immersive because of that,
Yeah, that's how it was actually explained to me. I think my buddy AB, he was telling me that it happens in a subtle way. It's not like they're trying to oversell it. It's just like, it's just enough for you to kind of, like you said, say, oh, man, what the world is going on? Just a nice little touch. Yeah, developers, please continue to use that. I think it would be fantastic. Shout out to Sony for that too, for, thinking that far ahead. They could have just kind of switched up the dual, the controller, and kind of just slapped a different can of paint on it and made it a little bigger. But they really went in, which was very amazing because they really didn't advertise it like this, which was more of a surprise to me. We heard that it was the DualSense and was going to have some motors or something going on, but I think they really undersold it to a certain extent, where when people did get their hands on it, it was just like, wow, it was kind of unexpected. Man, oh man. But yeah. Oh, go ahead, Tony. My bad, man. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I'm done.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I'm done talking.
But I guess in your opinion, now I understand that you have mainly worked on the PlayStation, brand, but in your opinion, especially with Cyberpunk 2077 being out there, and we see how that's kind of running on the older consoles. Would you say that it's a little difficult to make a game for multiple console configurations? Does that make the process, or could it make the process for a developer harder to know that, okay, I have to develop not only to this older spec, but also to the newer spec? Is there any hurdles in that, or is it a pretty smooth transition where you can just say, okay, we'll just make it for this and, bump it up on this version? I don't know. I'm just curious to know.
Just hit the easy button.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, I think it definitely is harder to do that. I mean, like you said, I've worked on exclusive PlayStation titles, but I can't imagine that trying to get, like, with how much we focus in on getting this game to run so smooth on a PlayStation, with it has the hardware dialed in. We know exactly what everything is in it. I can't imagine jumping to a PC, and I'm not like a programmer. I don't know much about this field, but I can't imagine jumping into a PC where it's like you got 55 billion different variations of drivers and graphics cards and RAM,
Yeah, exactly.
That, to me, that would scare the crap out of me. Yeah, I would say if you're a exclusive title, it would be in my opinion, it would be a lot easier to put out a game with less bugs and less issues.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, like I said, I'm a civilian, when it comes to development, but I just can't imagine that, man, having to make so many different cuts in this version that it wouldn't bleed over into the current gen version as well, because you're having to make so many sacrifices on this side. Yeah, just it's going to be an interesting generation, because Microsoft, Phil Spencer, he said that they're going to be supporting the older consoles for at least 2 years, and of course, then after that, we'll start to get those games that are really using the hardware's power. But also, and Jim Ryan, he said the same thing. It's going to be a long tail. The PS4 is going to have a longer tail as far as the cycle goes, because usually the PlayStation brand, they'll support for a few years, maybe 2 years or so, and then they slowly wean you off and move on to the next generation. But I can understand Jim Ryan saying that. I get it. I mean, it's 100 million plus people on the PlayStation 4, so you would want to make sure that you're feeding that player base. And they got some bangers coming out next year, man. I mean, they're coming in hot. Ratchet and Clank, Gran Turismo 7, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West. I mean, the games lineup is crazy for next year. Are you looking forward to any of those, like Horizon or Ratchet and Clank? Because Ratchet looks incredible, man. I mean, what that game is doing over at, Insomniac, shout out to them, basically being able to load a whole stage in a half a second. Unbelievable, man. I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, I'll be playing all those. Every one of them you said, I'll be playing.
I hear you, brother. Yes, indeed, man. I guess to wrap this one up, Tony, because I know it's starting to get late, brother. I don't want to hold you here too much longer. What educational advice would you give to someone who wants to get into the gaming industry? I mean, we know that, I know for myself, I'll say, as a kid, I just thought, hey, man, this is what I want to do. I want to dive in. I want to, get this done, that done. And I actually tried, Tony. I tried to go to the Art Institute of Philadelphia, which wasn't a far commute. I'm here in Baltimore. So, you're talking about a 2 states away, not far at all, so that would have been great. I mean, the Rocky Steps wasn't that far, I don't think, from the place. It'd have been awesome, man. But unfortunately for me, Tony, I didn't know how to draw, brother. I don't know what I was thinking going to an art institute, and I can't even draw, man. I just had my mind focused on, I want to make video games. If this is the vehicle that I need to take to get there, I'm going to try. But it didn't work out, which made me understand that, okay, it's steps that you have to go through in order to get into this industry. So for you personally, educationally, what advice would you give to someone that's trying to get into the field?
It depends on, like you're saying, if you don't draw or don't enjoy art, art, doing 3D art's not going to be any different, I don't think.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of disciplines, I guess, within the industry to get into, and like I was saying, like when I first started going to school, I had no idea what was what. I was like, I just want to do game art. I don't know, and then I started learning, like, oh, okay, there's character stuff, there's environment stuff, all that. But there's a lot of ways into it, and in the art side of it, your degree does not matter at all. It's, are you skilled? Because like you could have a master's degree but be terrible at making art. You're not going to get a job, in the industry making art, right?
Right.
So the art degree doesn't matter on that side. I went to Full Sail and I did it all online because I had 2 kids at the time and I was working full time. So it was like I was doing it at night. For me, it was the structure and discipline I needed to keep moving forward. I knew I was paying a lot for this school, and I knew I had deadlines coming up, and I work really well off of that kind of a structure. So it kept me motivated because you can learn everything that I learned in school on YouTube now,
What?
Like, there's
no
enough
way,
tutorials.
Tony.
Oh, yeah. There's enough tutorials. There's enough breakdown of the industry. It's that first haze of not knowing like what all these disciplines are and how do I focus in on going towards them. That can be the confusing part for sure. But on the art side, there's no real degree needed. The game design side, it's kind of the same thing again, where like if you can download Unreal, download free assets and make a game out of it, like make something fun, remake Pac-Man, remake some side scroller games, and there's tutorials on that kind of stuff too. That's game design, and that's how you prove you can do game design, right? Like they don't care about if you have this degree. It's helpful in some ways once you start getting more into the technical side of things like programming.
Yes.
To know that you've got that actual like university structure that they're supposed to teach, to give you that degree. But the art side, the game design side, and then you start swaying more into like needing a degree to be a programmer and stuff. Kind of the same thing still. It wouldn't be guaranteed. You don't have to have a degree, and if you have a degree, it doesn't mean you'll get a job. You have to still be a good programmer,
Yes.
So even that, I don't know that it's required, but it would definitely help a lot more as a programmer to have a degree.
Man, fantastic advice, Tony. Man, I really appreciate it, man. Hey, Tony, thank you, brother, for being here and taking the time out, man. It's been an absolute pleasure being able to speak with you.
Finally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Most definitely. But I guess with that being said, Tony, before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you would want to say to the listeners? Just one last thing, or are you good?
Hey, man, you put me on the spot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just blanked. I'm absolutely just nothing happened when you said that. Be good, people.
That's good. There you go. Be good. Oh, man. So with that being said, guys, I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell, joined here with Mr. Tony Mann. And if you want to join into the conversation, you can call in 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is theanalogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, guys, you guys take care and play some games and have a good one. Bye-bye.